Well, good morning and welcome to Friday's edition of Shelter Daily in His Word. It's a joy to have each one of you that are tuning in with us today. So thank you for doing that. I hope that you've been enjoying our time together. This week has been just a wonderful time. I'm just looking at Psalms chapter 15, and we're talking about citizens of heaven, what it looks like to be a citizen of heaven, what God expects of us as children of God on the earth, but also for you and I to live in such a way that we are looking forward to going to heaven to be with Him. And what is that going to look like? What's it going to take for us? What does the believer living in this world, what is their character? What is their lifestyle? What does it look like to be a Christian? And it's interesting because when you look at the things that are going on right now in our culture, there's a lot of controversy. There's a lot of different ideologies concerning what a Christian is supposed to be. And a lot of it's not based on the Word of God, but it's based upon what people think or what people well, I feel like it should be. A lot of feeling issues. There's a lot of things that people are going by their feelings instead of going by what the Word of God says. And they take the Word of God and they use the Word of God in such a way that it's disruptive to the actual things that God is trying to do. So they're not living in a way that is pleasing to the Lord. And because of that reason, they find themselves caught in these places where they're compromised and it's not pleasing to the Father. And so we have to look at this and we have to say, well, what is it that Christ expects of us? The Bible tells us that we're to walk worthy of the vocation with which we've been called. We're to be a people that live differently than the rest of the world lives. And so we talked about various aspects of this walk that we have with the Father, and that we are to be, as citizens of heaven, we are to live a life that's blameless, not perfect, but blameless. And we are to live a life that is harmless. We are to be careful. Our character is to be that of Christ. It is to be a godly character so that people can see Jesus in us and through us. And then we talked about how that this is played out in that as citizens of heaven, we are to be charitable toward our neighbors, and we're to love our neighbor as we love God. In the same way with mind, soul, and body and strength, we're to love God the same way. We're to give ourselves to loving God with everything within us, and then love our neighbors in the same manner, in the way that we love ourselves. A lot of people say, well, it simply means, as I love myself, therefore I love my neighbor. But it goes deeper than that. It's how you yourself love God. What is your expression and lifestyle to show that you love God with your mind, body, soul, and strength? That means every part of your being loves God. You're to love your neighbor in the same manner that you love. So then we also talked about, and we left off on, that as heavenly citizens, we are to be careful with our friendships, and we're not to align ourselves with the negative aspects of this world or the sinful aspects of the world. And we are to be cautious how we live that out on a daily basis, because there is this idea that, according to, if you look at verse 4, and I like what the NIV, or not the NIV, the New Living Translation, when it talks about this, it says in verse 4, it says, those who despise flagrant sinners and honor the faithful followers of the Lord and keep their promises even when it hurts. So the idea here is that we are to be careful not to align ourselves with those and live and act and conduct ourselves in the same way unbelievers do. We can't serve both. We can't serve God and serve mammon. We cannot have friendship with the world and then have friendship with God. It doesn't work that way. And God says if you're friends with the world, then it's enmity. It's a separation from me. It angers my heart, and it doesn't fare well with us. And so we have to be careful. And that doesn't mean that we don't associate with, unbelievers. That's not what we're getting at here. The idea here is not to participate in what unbelievers participate in. We're to live our lives in a manner that says, you know what, I'm different than them, and I'm going to hold that standard even in the midst of the darkness. For instance, if you look at the life of Jesus when he was living on the earth and he walked among people, the Bible tells us that he spent time with sinners, he spent time with tax collectors, he spent time